The room smelled like polished oak and old money, money that apparently belonged to everyone except me. As I sat in the front row of the will reading, I felt every eye sliding over me like I was an outsider trespassing on someone else's legacy. But nothing stung more than the look on my mother's face. That smug, razor-thin smile she wore whenever she knew she was about to hurt me. Should have expected the humiliation. In my family, favoritism wasn't subtle, it was sport. My sister, Cassandra, practically glowed with anticipation, her designer dress shimmering under the chandelier as if it were armor made of privilege. I sat there in thrift store black, hands folded, pretending I didn't care. Pretending I hadn't spent half my life trying to earn a place they never meant to give. The lawyer cleared his throat and began, according to the last will and testament of Raymond Porter, my grandfather. The only person who had ever made me feel seen. The first few pages were dull formalities, the legal language of a life being sorted into categories. Then the lawyer arrived at the part that made Cassandra inch forward like a cat waiting for cream. To my granddaughter Cassandra Porter, I leave $6,900,000, along with the lake house property and all its contents. My mother clapped, as if this were a graduation ceremony. My father laughed loud enough to echo off the wooden walls. Cassandra didn't even pretend to be humble. She tossed her hair, shooting me a look that said, "Some people win. Some people don't." Then the lawyer continued in a steady, unbothered voice to my granddaughter Emily Porter. My heartbeat slowed. I leave $1. $1. Single. $. A collective gasp rippled through the room, followed by the soft, satisfied huff of my mother enjoying every second. "Guess even your grandfather knew," she said with a smirk sharp enough to cut. Some kids just don't measure up. Laughter. Actual laughter. My father leaned back, shaking his head like I was a punchline decades in the making. I should have cried. I should have broken. I should have run out. Instead, I sat perfectly still, my spine straight, my hands calm, my face unreadable, because while they mocked me, the lawyer raised a finger. "There is one more thing." My mother's smile stalled. The lawyer unfolded a small, separate envelope, marked in my grandfather's handwriting. "This," he said, "is Mr. Porter's final private letter. He instructed it be read aloud only after the will." My mother frowned. Why would he write her anything else? The lawyer didn't answer. He simply broke the seal, pulled out a crisp sheet of paper, and as his voice began to read my grandfather's words, my mother suddenly went pale. Then she screamed. My mother's scream cracked through the room before a single word was even spoken. It wasn't fear yet, not fully. It was panic, the kind that comes from suddenly realizing you don't control the script anymore. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, unfazed. "Shall I continue?" he asked politely. My father muttered, "This is ridiculous," but his voice trembled. The lawyer began reading. "To my granddaughter Emily, if you are hearing this, then the truth I uncovered must finally see daylight." A strange hush fell over everyone. Cassandra shifted uncomfortably. My mother's jaw clenched so hard I heard her teeth grind. "Emily, you were never treated fairly in that house. I tried to shield you, but some wars can only be won by the person who bleeds in them." My chest tightened. Grandpa had known. He had always known, the lawyer continued. "Your parents have spent the last 23 years hiding something they feared would ruin them. Something that, legally, belongs to you. This letter is both a confession and a key." My mother shot up from her chair. "Stop. Do not read another word," she shrieked, rushing toward the lawyer, but he held up a hand. "Ma'am, you will sit down, or I'll have security escort you out." For the first time in my life, I saw my mother hesitate. Then, shaking, she Saturday the letter went on. "Emily, the fortune your grandmother left behind before she passed, every stock, every property, every trust, was placed in your name when you were only a child. Your parents lied. They hid it. They siphoned from it. And when the law caught up, they buried the evidence." My breath froze. A gasp broke from my father. Cassandra's hand slipped off her lap. My mother looked like she was about to be sick. "They what?" I whispered, "But the letter wasn't done. All documentation proving this theft has been secured and handed to Attorney Mills. The moment this letter is read, he is legally obligated to act. Emily, everything taken from you is to be returned immediately. With interest." My mother lunged again, screaming, "You can't do this. This is a lie. All of it." The lawyer lifted another folder thick as a dictionary. "Bank statements. Property deeds. Transfer logs. And recorded phone calls." My father's face drained of all color. You recorded us, he whispered to the air, as if Grandpa could answer. I sat there frozen. Shock. Relief. Vindication. All tangled into one tight knot inside me. My mother pointed at me with shaking hands. This is your fault. You ungrateful. The lawyer cut her off by pulling out one last document, and finally, he said, your parents are legally barred from accessing any of Emily's accounts or inheritance. Effective immediately. Additionally, he hesitated, there is a final instruction from Mr. Porter. And it concerns the house you currently live in. My mother's face crumpled. Cassandra whispered, Mom, what's happening? The lawyer closed the letter gently. Emily, he said, looking straight at me, your grandfather left the house, to you. A slow, building silence filled the room. My parents looked like they'd been shot, and for the first time in my life, I felt the balance of power as if he had just announced the end of her world. In a way, he had. That house is mine, she hissed, voice cracking. I built that life. The lawyer calmly tapped the document. Legally, ma'am, it now belongs to your daughter. Your father-in-law's instructions were explicit. You and your husband are to vacate the property within 72 hours. Cassandra gasped. My father stood up so fast the chair toppled over. This is insanity, he barked. You can't just throw us out of our own home. Actually, the lawyer folded his hands. Your home was bought entirely with funds from Emily's trust. Funds you illegally accessed. Meaning, technically, it has always been her house. Silence. Thick. Suffocating. My mother's lips trembled. Emily, she said, turning toward me with a desperate softness I had never heard from her in my life. Sweetheart, you wouldn't do this to us. We're family. Family, how easily she used a word she never honored. I stood slowly. My legs felt steady, grounded, like I'd finally stepped into the version of myself my grandfather always believed lived inside me. I didn't do this to you, I said quietly. You did. Cassandra stood between us, torn. Please, this isn't fair. Mom and Dad, they stole from me, I said. For years. They lied. They left me with scraps and told me to be grateful for them. My mother took a step forward, reaching for my hand. We made mistakes, okay? Everyone does. But think about how this will look. No, I cut in. For once, think about what you did. Her shoulders fell. Her face crumpled, but the lawyer wasn't finished. There is one final provision, he said. Per Mr. Porter's request, Emily has sole authority to decide what consequences follow the theft. Civil charges. Criminal charges. Asset seizure. The decision is entirely hers. My parents froze like statues, and my father's voice came out barely above a whisper. Emily, please. I looked at them, really looked. These were people who had laughed when I got a single dollar. People who had taken millions meant for my future and used it to build Cassandra's world while telling me I wasn't enough. Forgiveness wasn't in my bloodstream today. I'm not pressing charges, I finally said. They exhaled in shaky relief. But you're leaving my house, I continued. Tonight. Their relief shattered instantly, and you're paying back every cent you stole. With interest. Just like Grandpa wanted. My mother collapsed into her chair, sobbing. My father put a hand over his face. Cassandra's eyes filled with tears, not for me, but for the life she knew was slipping away. That night, I stood on the front porch of the house they once told me I didn't deserve. Boxes piled in the driveway. My parents loaded their last belongings into a car far less expensive than the ones my trust had unknowingly bought them. My mother paused in front of me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You're really doing this, she whispered. Yes, I said. And be grateful, Grandpa gave you a softer ending than you ever gave me. They drove away slowly, shrinking into the distance, stepped inside my home, feeling a peace I had never known. Grandpa's last gift wasn't wealth, it was justice, and I intended to live every day of my new life the way he wanted.